start pretty soon, and then we're going to start the recording. All right. How's my volume for you? You guys hear me all right?
Yeah, sounds good on my end.
All right. So our stream is up, which is good. And now it's time to start the recording. Hey, Rhett, do a quick mic check for me before I hit record. Can you speak for me, Rhett? Okay, I'm having trouble hearing you. I hear some buzzing. Can't hear you. Me. All right, he's gonna come back in. Let's give him a moment to come back in. Oh,
Okay.
I mean, obviously there's a lot of things I want to talk about. I wanted to have you on before the primary, but you know, we weren't successful in reaching out to you.
Hello.
I think I can hear you now, Rhett.
Okay, I don't know what happened. I had to obviously leave and come back.
I think I had emailed the wrong thing because I was trying to email you so that I could get you to come on before primaries, because I at the time when I looked at you and your competition, I thought that the two people that would have done the greatest job of unseating Palazzo would have been between you and Boynton and possibly Wiggins because of his political background, but Wiggins did much poorer than I expected as well, which goes to say that he might not be as liked as people want us to believe, because
Right.
Politicians will be politicians and embellish a little bit. But with that being said, Rhett's got his mic test up, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the record button, and we're going to get started. Good day, everyone, and welcome to the Story of America with me, your host, DeAndre Pace, and Rhett Williams, the co-host. Today, we have with us joining for the second time on our show, Raymond Brooks, who was the Republican congressional candidate for this year's primary. Unfortunately, Raymond Brooks does not seem like he's going to be the winner of this particular primary race, but he can give us some good insight, and we have a lot of great things to talk about today. First things first, Mr. Brooks, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
I'm glad that you've decided to come on with us. I wanted to have you back on before primaries, but the news cycle has been so chaotic, and I think somebody of your expertise would have been able to really help out with a lot of that stuff. Before we get to some of the more pressing topics that have been in the news lately, I wanted to just ask you, now that the primary race is over, how did this congressional run go for you, and how are you feeling with what looks to be a potential runoff between Ezell and Palazzo?
Well, the experience of this was definitely eye-opening. I do wish that we had more people come out and vote. I think that's where myself and Carl Boynton fell short is, there's approximately 270,000 registered voters in the 4th district, and only about 50,000 came out. So, that's one of the things that I think I underestimated. I thought that this district, just from what I've been hearing, that more people wanted to be involved and wanted more change. But it's pretty typical for a midterm, an off-season midterm, like this one, that people just choose to sit at home. Why they choose to do that is beyond me. There's a lot of people that contacted me after the race, and it was one of two things: either they didn't know the other candidates that were running on the ballot, or they didn't know that the actual election was even on that day. So that was a bit disheartening. To say
Yeah, that's the local media's fault, because they don't publicize anything.
That's exactly
Right.
what I was about to say. Do you think that the media has anything to do with that? Because at the last forum that you guys had, the one that was outside in the heat, if it wasn't for Alden letting us know about it, we wouldn't have known. And when we showed up there, hardly anybody was there. The only people that showed up with a camera was us.
Well, let's be honest. Everybody had a camera in their pocket. Nobody else filmed it, though.
Yeah,
Right.
everybody else had their phones, but as far as the media attention, no recording. I seen the media on that one presser you guys had at the school.
Yes.
WLOX posted that it was going to happen, but then they didn't put any video out, nothing.
Right.
Not even an article. So we didn't get hardly any real information. And so I'm thinking the media really, I don't want to say it, but it seems like they might be in Palazzo's pocket, because they won't run any information about him. Any run-of-the-mill person that lives in the 4th district does not want Palazzo to be our representative. But nobody knew about the election day. Nobody knew about the forums. Nobody knew that he didn't show up to any of the forums.
And I don't know that I would squarely put the blame on media. I'd have to say that we as a nation have just become too complacent with our politics. It's either I hear I'm not really into politics, which is the worst thing you can say as an American citizen, or that they just don't pay too much attention to it. In either case, it's not good for us as a nation.
As I would agree with you there, but we have the kind of system that. Go ahead. Sorry.
When I go around, I pass out stuff, with my flyers and push cards or whatever, and I'll pass out the little pocket constitutions, because so many people don't even realize what's in that. The last time they remember even reading it was in high school or in middle school, and the context of it back then versus now as an adult, you'd have a different understanding of it, of what your freedoms are. And I think people just tend to take that for granted. And again, I think that's just the temperature of our nation. We've become complacent. We've become a little bit lazy, and we failed to do our part as far as the American citizens in our rights to the voting process, to look into the candidates and actually find out what they stand for and who are these people that actually want to represent us. So many times I hear people just saying, that guy's got it in the bag. He's going to get it no matter what. Nobody's going to be able to unseat him. And that is just ridiculous, because you have the power to unseat somebody if you don't like them. The same people who complain over and over again about how they can't stand these high prices, gas prices, food prices, shortages in food, toilet paper, baby food. These are the same people who sat at home June 7th. And I'm like, you don't really have a right to talk. If you're not going to be a part of the political process, sit down and just be complacent, because you're part of the status quo. You're part of the reason that things don't change, because you won't stay active in these things. So I think there's a little bit of blame for everybody. I'm not trying to, say that I have sour grapes about the election or anything like that. I really thought that we were making some big strides, and proofs in the pudding at the end of the day. Some people came out for me, but it wasn't nearly the numbers that I was projecting to get. So, but like I said, I learned a lot. It was a great learning curve. Something I've done for the very first time was delve into politics. Whether I decide to do it again, that's, we'll see. But for now, I just have to see, kind of let the dust settle per se, and see what happens from here.
Yeah, I think
if I can remember, the kind of system that we have requires everybody of voting age to at least be peripherally aware of what's going on. But I think that I've had so many conversations with people about politics, and then they'll come to the point where they're just like, yeah, I don't vote. And I'm just like, why are you even talking about this to me right now?
It's frustrating, isn't it?
It is. It's like, why do you know all this stuff about politics, but you don't vote?
Yeah, I wish I could understand that myself. And I think if there's ever a candidate that comes up and truly understands the lack of enthusiasm for the American citizens to actually get out there and vote, or even actually just to pay attention to the voting process, who's running, who's trying to be your representative, that will be key. I think I've made some pretty big strides for somebody who had no political background, and the showing wasn't shameful. But like I said, I was really thinking it was going to be much better than it was.
It was also just a lot of candidates.
Yeah, I was about to say that too. Do you think that had the primaries been more along the lines of figuring out which one was going to be the candidate to replace Palazzo, as opposed to everybody running at the same time, that maybe we would have had instead of having a runoff, we would have had a clear, decisive victor? Because when you take a look at the votes between the candidates and Palazzo, I mean, you guys beat him by a landslide, but it just wasn't enough because the vote was split between all of you guys.
And I think that's what Palazzo's camp was counting on, that there would be a big split. And I think they actually thought they were going to win it outright. They did a lot of polling to begin with, and showing 68, 70% were in favor of him being reelected. But man, the actual election showed that was very, very far off. So
isn't he the one who put the term limit, the 6-year term limit thing before Congress several times?
He did. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the candidates who were running agreed with that same term limit plan. But you see what that gets you when you keep them in there for that long.
14th year.
Yes. And his reasoning is he's after 12 years, after 6 terms, he's just to the point where he holds power in Congress. He has a seat, with a little bit of power, and he has more influence in his position. So for him to step down now would just take away from Mississippi. I highly disagree with that. They tend to forget that it's supposed to be the people's house, and that's what's probably more upsetting than anything. You've got a group of congressmen, senators in Washington who are so out of touch with everyday people, and they think they know what's best for everybody, without even talking to us. They don't ask us what our issues are. They don't ask us what problems they have. They just say, this is what's going to be best for you, and make decisions based on that, which is not the way it's supposed to be. They're supposed to actually represent what we want them to do. So
now that our politics has become pop culture, our politicians are celebrities.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really how it is now.
It really is. And they don't do anything. They don't do any real work. Palazzo, he's basically become Benny Thompson 2.0.
Yeah. He's not the only one.
Another person that we just
I'd say I would put guest on that rest.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do? We sit there and grumble and we complain, but nobody's willing to stand up. I was a grumbler and a complainer, but I stood up. I tried my best to take a stand for South Mississippi. It's unfortunate I just couldn't get enough of the votes. If I decided to do it again, I think there's a lot of things that I would change. in the way that I ran the campaign this time. But again, that's another story. I would say, it is what it is. So we'll take our licks and keep on ticking. And like I said, I learned a lot. I wouldn't trade it for the world. It was a great experience. I met some wonderful people throughout the 4th District that I cherish now. I call them friends. So, all in all, I think it was a plus for me. And whether that opens doors down the road, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Now, what is your opinion of Ezel? If we're able to, because I know we have the runoff date that's going to come up, and we have to go out and vote again for the runoff. If we're able to convince all of the people that came out and voted for you, voted for your competition, all of the other guys to get behind Ezel to take Palazzo out, what's your opinion of Ezel? Because when I was at the forum and I was able to hear Ezel on the stage, sounds very polished, very authoritative, but he scares me because he seems very war hawkish.
I agree with that.
What is your
That's
opinion
what I thought
of Ezel?
too.
Do you?
I think you hit the nail on the head. From what I've seen and what I've heard, I was kind of questioning some of his answers as well. But as far as that it's kind of a two-part thing. Let's start with number one. As far as all the other candidates getting together behind somebody, we all stand together in saying that Palazzo does need to be unseated, regardless. So right there, that's going to give half of our support right to whoever the front runner is, and of course, right now that's Ezel. Now, as far as him, I was very, as a candidate myself, I was very, very focused on my own campaign and the message I was trying to get out. So I paid not too much attention to the other candidates personally. I did have a committee who was helping me, and they were looking into some of these candidates, but I didn't get really too much from Ezel, and I think that he kind of slipped under the radar there. I don't think he was expected to get as many votes as he did. But he ran a great campaign and he did really well. So, kudos to him for that. Now, as far as the platform, that he stands on, I think we all stand united that we stand on a Republican conservative platform. And just like individuals in anything, you're going to have people who support one thing a little bit more than another. And I think that's where Ezel was. Across the board, he's a conservative, and I think that's what he's going to fight for. And if he doesn't, that's something I think we should hold his feet to the flame on. But there were some answers and some issues that he did, comment on that I was a little bit concerned on. And one of the things that you just mentioned about like the a little bit war hungry, like he was too anxious to get into a conflict with Russia, Ukraine thing.
Yeah.
So
that was the one that was the one that got me the most. Was that now he said some other things that were a little suspect too, and I liked a lot of his answers. But what it comes down to is, if given the choice between the devil we know and the devil we don't, Ezel or Palazzo, who would you prefer?
I would prefer Ezel, and only because I think once you've been in there too long, you start getting your claws into the political system, and again, you get away from why we put you there to begin with. Palazzo is absolutely there, and he's proved it through this entire campaigning process by absolutely refusing to talk to the people of South Mississippi, not doing any town halls, not attending any forums, refusing to do any debates with any of the candidates. Whether that is going to benefit you or not, I think you owe it to your constituents to show up. And he absolutely refused to. So to me, that was a thumb in he thumbed his nose at us and said that we didn't deserve that from his campaign or from him. That just, that upset me even more. Initially, I don't have anything personal against Palazzo. He's got some issues. And I think those issues are enough for him to step down on his own if he had any morals standards himself, but he doesn't, and he's proven that to us. The thing is, we have to get we have to get to the point where we're going to stand up and we're going to support somebody, And I think if we put somebody in there fresh, like Ezel, who I don't want to say doesn't have a political background, but doesn't have that political background, I think it's easier to unseat him if he starts doing stuff that we don't agree with in these next 2 years.
I would agree with
I don't
that.
think they don't have the backing.
Now, in many respects, I absolutely agree. But one of the things that Ezel said, and all of you have said, everyone that we've talked to, everyone that we interviewed, and the ones that we didn't interview, have said that they want to get in there, get the job done, and get out. Do you see that in Ezel? And do you think that he's going to hold his word on that? Because just strictly speaking on a career background, Ezel has been the sheriff of Ocean Springs, I think it was, for an exceptionally long period of time. And it makes it hard to believe that he'll get in and get out because of how long he's been doing a particular job that he's doing. Now, I'll give credit where credit's due. His county is one of the safest counties in our district. You know, whether that's due to over policing or just not enough crime or whatever in the area, which I love having safe areas to live in. You know, Harrison County, it's getting a little bit rough over here. I just had another shooting at my house about a week ago. You know, at 2:00 in the morning, I'm calling the police because there's people outside. Sounds like it's the 4th of July. And so, and also,
it's a bad area though.
It is, it really is. But it's right next to a school, which is what's so troublesome. Is that the school is literally right across the street. But, you know, also, and one of the things that you said, Palazzo snubbing his nose at us, but not showing up. You know, one of the things that you know, I wasn't able to get too much information out of Wiggins because he just seemed very trained politician. You know, they answer a question with a question. But one of the things that I've at the very least respected Ezel for was at the last forum that me and Rhett went to. Wiggins was there, and he had to leave because he said he had to do some campaign work or some work for a state Congress. But at least he showed up. He answered some questions. He was there for about an hour and a half, and then he left. You know, before we were able to get through all the questions, but at least he showed up and said that, oh, I have to leave early because I have to do this. If Palazzo will give us any of that, I think he might have gained a little bit more respect from his constituency.
Right. I agree 100%. Like I said, I don't have anything against Palazzo, but I think that he should have answered some of the questions that we have as voters that put him there. A lot of stuff that was going on in this nation that we weren't happy about, that he voted either with or against, that, you know, we're scratching our heads. At least answer for those. You know, that's all I think. You answer for those. Explain us your thoughts on why you decided to vote this way or not support something that was going through that the American people weren't happy about.
Yeah, I certainly, it's so rare in politics these days, but I respect honesty. Yeah. No matter if you did right or wrong, just tell us and admit it.
Well, that's, you know, I don't think we have anybody to blame but ourselves, because we keep electing these people in. We keep electing them in. And so what does that do to them and their mindset? It empowers them. It makes them believe that, hey, I can do what I want, and it's not going to matter, because when it comes to voting time, I know how to play the game. I'll put a bunch of commercials out. I'll do a couple public appearances right before the election, and the people are going to love me. Watch. And lo and behold,
or just not care. I mean, most of them are. The reason why we have people in office that long is because very few people actually care. And like you said, you finally decided to stand up and say something and put your voice in the ring. And I think, you know, if you decide to carry that on to a local or a state office, or, you know, maybe run for Congress again, the door will at least stay cracked.
Yeah, but I believe so too. And that's why I say overall, it's a positive experience. And like I said, I've made some great friends, very many like-minded people in this district. And I was very comforted to see that people were angry about the same things that I was angry about, and wanted the same changes that I wanted. It really seemed like there was a lot more. But I think part of the process, and you say would there be more people stand up? Politics, the way that we have it set up in this day and time, is not conducive for the average American to get elected. It's not set up in that manner unless you have a ton of money and you have the right. I mean, you just got to have a lot of working parts work for you at the right time for that to happen. And like I said, that's just one of the things that I've learned. I think I ran a very good campaign, a very honorable campaign. I'm glad there wasn't mudslinging or name calling. It didn't get to that point, which is I didn't know what I was getting into. So I was kind of expecting the worst of the worst to happen, but it was actually very amicable. And I actually made really good friends with several of the candidates. So,
I think that's the one thing that I was able to notice about the candidates that was on stage against Palazzo is, you all were able to come to a consensus on airing out Palazzo's dirty laundry. But amongst the actual candidates, you guys were very respectful towards one another. I don't know the behind the scenes of everything, but at least from the point on the stage, you guys were very respectful on one another. Not from what I saw, not a lot of poking fingers at one another, throwing punches at one another. It was more about laying down the issues, pointing out Palazzo's flaws, and trying to get that guy out of office. Right. And it was very, very respectful and very commendable of all of the candidates. But I will say this, regardless of whether it was successful for you, Boynton, or any of the other candidates that were against him, I think what you guys have been able to do as a collective unit is prove to Palazzo that he is not safe, because you were able to mobilize enough people that came out that could have voted him out of office if there were fewer choices. And in the near future, because we got 2 years more to go after this, and that's assuming that Ezel doesn't manage to unseat him in the runoff. What that tells to Palazzo is that, hey, look, the next time come around, it's going to be a lot more focused, and everybody's going to try. I'm not saying that I want to see the competition be slimmed down so much, because then you start to lose a little bit of ground as far as people that you really believe can follow your vision. But it's going to allow us to narrow in and focus on particular candidates that we believe share our values and can beat Palazzo. And if that becomes the case, and former candidates will also believe in the same thing, that puts a significant amount of pressure onto Palazzo to put up or go home. And hopefully it's going to be go home come next time.
Yeah, we'll see. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You want, it's a right that every American citizen has to be able to campaign and try to be a representative for your district wherever you live, whether that's a local office or a national office like we tried. So I don't want to take anything away from that. I do wish that there was a better process throughout each of these counties, whether that be through committees, in each district that says, hey, let's take a look at these candidates. You want to run and you want our county support, come sit down and talk to us. Let's see where you stand. And then those people say, we've talked to all the candidates, and this is the person that we want to support, and we want our county to support. And I'm not saying that that's wholesale what's going to happen, but that would be a good recommendation, for somebody who actually because the average person, I tried to knock on as many doors and talk to as many people as I possibly could. And those events in themselves went a very long way. People were very, very appreciative to have somebody do it old school and come and actually speak to them face to face, because you're not just a commercial, you're not just a billboard. You're somebody tangible that they can hear, see, and talk to, and that they can read your body language, they can see your facial expressions, and they can tell if you're genuine about what you're wanting to do. And that's very, very important. So people were very appreciative of that. But in the same sense, you still want to be able to, not deter anybody from being able to run. If you want to run, you have a constitutional right to do that as long as you fit all the parameters. So I don't want to deter anybody. I was really hoping that we would make headway with this election, because number one, as far as term limits go, I probably had the lowest number of years that I wanted as a term limit program for our legislators, and that was anywhere between 3 and 5 terms, 6 to 10 years, no more.
Yeah, that's about my thing too. Three terms is my idea.
Yeah, 3 terms. I was happy with 6 years, and I think that opens the door for more people that are average people, more plumbers, more electricians, more average everyday people to stand up and have an opportunity to represent their districts. That's just something that we've gotten away from. When you look at Congress now, it's overwhelmingly one of 2 things: big business or law. You either have a law degree, defense, prosecutor, judge, something in that realm, or you are involved in a big business. And those are the people that are representing a vast majority of this nation. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be equal representation throughout that Congress. But they've made it in such a way that they kind of keep us out of it. And
do you think that we have deceived ourselves into that we, the American people, have deceived ourselves to thinking that you need some arbitrary qualification in law or business in order to become a congressperson?
Yes. Well, here's the thing. I think we have just a little bit, but I think that we have lawyers and we have people who are very well spoken, and they know how to present a case to a jury per se, and convince them, hey, this is the best way to go. This is your best option. This person is a candidate. And we, are partially, again, to blame on that, because there's not enough of us that are involved in the political process. And again, that's shame on us. The country's in the shape it is. We can't blame Washington, D.C. Yeah, we have to be able to blame ourselves, put some blame on ourselves. And until we as Americans can start blaming ourselves and accepting that responsibility, it's not going to change. We're going to continue to do the same thing over and over.
I think that's a good analogy, because I've never thought of it like that, where the congresspersons that are running, they are the lawyers and attorneys, and we are the jury deciding the fate of the country, which lawyer is correct, or the prosecution or the defense. And in many cases, we are ruling for the defense, which is the incumbent, as opposed to the prosecutor who wants to get the incumbent out of there. So yeah, I like that analogy. It's a really good analogy. You got any more questions on this particular topic, Rhett? Because I don't want to bog down the conversation with just talks about the primary.
No, well, I think obviously complacency is the number one issue as far as politics is concerned, but also that it's become entertainment for a certain, and I'll say I'm guilty of that. I do think it's pretty entertaining sometimes.
Well, when you got a guy like Biden in office, sometimes you got to make some entertainment out of it, or you'll cry.
But being, some people should run for office, obviously, but that's not the only way to stand up. I mean, you could work for a campaign if you're not cut out for the public, or you could. I see what we're doing is also standing up and doing something about it. We have a small show right now, but we're growing our audience. And at a certain point, we will have the reach to be able to affect a lot of people and change their opinions or share information with them. So
I think if you continue doing what you're doing, you will, because, as I traveled these counties throughout the 4th district, 12 different counties, a lot of people said that this is where they first saw me as a candidate on this show.
Well, I'm happy to hear
so
that.
Yeah, so
surprising.
that's, I mean, you're definitely making some waves. I don't know if I'm not going to say they watched it live, but they did see it at some point. So that goes a long way. And we do need more people. And it's not just, it's like what you said, Rhett. You've got to be involved one way or another. If the people that I talk to, just they got to understand that to run a campaign, it costs money. And I was by far one of the least budgeted campaigns that was in this in this whole runoff. So trying to do what the other candidates were doing, getting airtime on radio, getting airtime on television, all those other aspects that cost money. And people would call me constantly saying, "Hey, I just saw Clay Wagner had a commercial on. When is your commercial coming in?" Well, Clay Wagner had, over $250,000 in his campaign. He can absolutely afford to do that.
I absolutely agree with that notion too. But I also want to say that I think what you're doing, and I'm not sure what Ezel's campaign commercials and stuff are all about because I've never seen any of them.
I didn't
But
either. That's
I
kind of
think
shocking.
I think what you're doing, actually going meeting people, it's obviously taking the time to speak with people like us. It really speaks to something because, um, you know, Carl Boynton, I liked him. I think he was really good, very Trumpish, which I think
I like him too. Yeah.
might have turned some people off because some people still are never Trumpers. Um, but Boynton, he put in a lot of money. He had a lot of commercials. I've seen some of his on YouTube commercials. Wagner obviously put in a lot. But when you take a look at the numbers, I think when I looked at it, your votes you racked in slightly less than 5,000. Might have been more, but at the time that I looked at it, it was slightly less than 5,000.
Yeah, but even that.
Boynton was a little over 6,000, and he put in a lot of money. And I'm not sure how his campaign operated behind the scenes, whether he was going knocking on doors. Bryce Wiggins, he didn't even get to 10. He had a little over 9,000. And Wagner, he started off strong, but I think he capped out at a little over 11,000. Might have been somewhere around 12 to 13. And again, I don't know anything about how Ezel's was set up because I didn't see any commercials. But then again, I didn't see any commercials for a lot of people. I saw some for Boynton. I didn't see really any commercials for Wiggins. They're pretty sure they were out there somewhere. I actually didn't see any for Wagner either, but I'm pretty, like you said, they were out there. I guess it depends on where you consume most of your media at.
Right.
And that might have been Ezel's strategy. I'm not sure what it was, because we never got to speak with him. But maybe his strategy was more along the lines of social media, because I know when I looked at the flyers that I got from the forum, all of his contact information was all social media. There was no email, there was no phone number to contact. So considering that most people are getting their information from social media nowadays, maybe the TV commercials and stuff like that just doesn't cut it for some people. They're not watching, young people particularly, they're not watching TV.
Yeah,
I think
a lot of the cable's going away. I think it's a dinosaur at this time. Most people stream now, so it's not that accessible to the average person. If you want to count on that, you're probably looking at a genre of the elderly. I'd say, that my mother and grandparents and stuff like that who still watch cable news. But I think a good swath of the public is moving to streaming, or they go to social media for most of their information now.
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, I don't want to date myself because I'm not that old, but I purchased YouTube television exclusively for the ability to watch TV. But the thing about it is a lot of times I'm working when my shows are on, so they're on DVR. So when the commercials do come on, I skip them. That's how most people are. And then like when I was talking to Rhett on our last show, for the longest time I've had YouTube Premium, no ads. So it canceled, and I decided that I wasn't going to pay for it anymore because YouTube keeps deleting our videos. So I said I'm not going to do YouTube Premium anymore. And then I start seeing Boynton's advertisements all over the place on YouTube. Every time I click on one,
Yeah.
there's Boynton. I think, you know what? Now I think I might have seen one Wagner YouTube ad, and I'm like, okay, well, that brings up another point. A lot of us aren't actually seeing the advertisements as opposed to reading them on social media because
Right.
we're skipping the ads. We're buying all the services that removes advertisements because we don't
Right.
want to see ads. You know, so there's a whole there's a whole new world of stuff, and then of course the FEC has a lot to do with how we can regulate those things too, which I don't want to, I don't want to get into a conversation about the FEC. I think if we wanted to really make our elections a little bit more fair, we would get rid of them altogether because the FEC really has no place in our politics. But they're there, and I don't see them going anywhere anytime soon. Um,
Yeah.
but like I said, I didn't want to talk about just primaries on this one because I felt like your expertise can really help bring to light some of the issues that have been facing us fairly recently. Um, as you know, we've had a slew of shootings lately. You know, started with the Brooklyn Railroad shooter in New York. Really, it started earlier than that, but the ones that the media choose to pay attention to, the Brooklyn Railroad shooter, then the Buffalo shooting after that, which they're still paying attention to that, and they completely forgotten about the Brooklyn guy. I don't even want to talk about him, but in my opinion, they don't talk about him because his skin color is wrong. But
Yeah.
then we have the Uvalde shooting, probably the most tragic shooting that we've seen, and if you don't count the massacres that happen in Chicago every day. But then Philadelphia looked like a war zone. I was watching Fox. Philadelphia, it sounded like a war zone a couple of days ago. It sounded like the 4th of July. Um, so first off, you've been a police officer. I believe you said it was 20 years.
Yes.
So in in your opinion, obviously there's a lot of opinions going around with the Uvalde police chief, how he operated that situation, given that it was active shooting, but it was also a barricade situation. I can buy that it was a barricade situation because of the way that the doors in the schools are designed. You can't just go in there and kick it through like you would, like the police officers came here and they kicked open my neighbor's door when I called the police because of the gunshots. You can't just do that at to a school door. I mean, you probably could. It would just take a significant period of time, and
Right.
will probably ramp up the amount of danger that the kids would face and that the officers would face. So, in your professional opinion on that, how do you think that handled it? And if you were in charge of the operation, how would you have handled it differently if you see any areas of improvement that they could have taken?
Okay. Well, that is a great question, and it's a great issue that's going around, and a lot of people have been paying close attention to it. However, here's my personal opinion on it. Number one, I wouldn't speak on behalf of somebody else and what their actions are in a situation that I am not there personally at. How they responded to that is strictly on them. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. But I wasn't there, so I don't know all those extenuating circumstances that were involved in the actual incident, and those will come out in the next few days. Now, on me personally, I know how I was trained, and I know why I got into this profession, because I want to stop things just like that from happening. I put that uniform on every single day, wondering if it's gonna be a day like that, or if it's gonna be a traffic stop on my way into the office or something, that it's gonna put me in a position where I'm going to have to take somebody's life or try to defend my own, or even run across having to defend somebody else's life because they are being threatened. Their life is being threatened. The training that we've gone through, I take extremely, extremely seriously. I don't like complacency. And so I try not to be that person. I try to do everything I can to make sure that I'm trained, that I'm aware of what's going on, aware of my surroundings, and that if there is an issue that needs to be handled, that's what I'm there for. I didn't get into this obviously for the money because you're not going to get it in this profession. I got in this because I wanted to make a change. I wanted to be a good, positive role model for my kids. I wanted to be able to protect my community. And I wanted to, leave that positive impact on the people around me in my area. This was the best way for me to do that. And I think, it was one of those things, that a path that God set me on. I didn't grow up wanting to become a police officer. It was just something that happened in my life. Again, it's a long story and we'll talk about it someday, but, basically I kind of fell into the job and found I did really, really well with it. And I was very suited for it. I have the perfect mindset for it. And that, I think, goes a long way, because a lot of people wash out once they find out, hey, this is not what I thought it was going to be. There's a lot of negative aspects to it that you have to be able to handle in a way that's not detrimental to your own psyche. Because dealing with negativity day after day, hour after hour, every single day for months, years, that's going to have an effect on you. It really is. And if you don't have a way of dealing with that, it's going to have a negative effect on you. So you have to be able to separate your private life from your work life. And you've got to be able to put those boundaries down where this is my family time and this is my work time. Those things go a long way. So like I said, I absolutely would have handled that differently. And that strictly goes to our training. I'm not going to say every agency in this nation gets trained the same way. I know that we got top-notch training. And I know that if there's an incident here in our city, these officers that I work with fight over each other to try to be the first one on scene. That's the kind of attitude that I have. And that's the kind of attitude of the people that I want to work with.
Well, I gotta say, given my experience calling the police for these types of incidents, the shootings and stuff, Gulfport Police, you guys are the best. Because when I called, there's active shooting going on. I called at 2:00 in the morning, called dispatch, and I'm like, "Hey, there's an active shooting." She's asking me the details. And I told her where I'm at. She says, "Is it still going on?" So yeah, they're still shooting right now. I kid you not. Before I even hung up the phone with dispatch, I could already hear the sirens. Those guys were coming. It was like 4 minutes. The shooters, they had already fled by then. But if they, if I had picked up the phone and called a minute or two earlier, because I had a little bit of time, it woke me up out my sleep. My dog started barking. But if I had called just a minute or two earlier, the police would have caught them in the action,
right?
Because they were coming. So, the response team with Gulfport Police and the fact that they're coming to face that type of danger and that type of speed, you guys are the best at doing that to keep us safe.
I'd like to speak on Gulfport Police Department specifically because I don't think I talked to you about this last time. DeAndre knows, but I'm a convicted felon, and I've been arrested by Gulfport Police Department several times. And every single time, of course, I'm not the kind of person who's going to resist. I know I did wrong, so I don't give the police any trouble when it comes to that. But they've always conducted themselves very professionally, and they didn't mistreat me at all. So I can't say the same for Harrison County, but Gulfport Police Department, I have tremendous respect for.
Yeah, the only time I've ever had an incident with Gulfport Police is when I was not being respectful towards the officer, and he didn't put his arms on me or anything like that. He just gave me a reality check by telling me, "Hey, you need to watch your mouth, or we're just not going to help you," because you called us for help, and I understand that you're angry and you're frustrated with what's going on, but you have to keep your composure and talk, because you're human beings. You're not taking your anger out on us. So that was the only time I ever had an incident where the police snapped on me, but I was snapping on the police officer, and I wasn't snapping at him. I was angry at the situation.
Right.
And I called the police to get some assistance. And when I found out that that's not quite how the law works, that they can't just do what I want them to do when I want them to do it, I'm sitting there like, will I get in trouble if I take this person out? And I'm running my mouth, but kept this composure, was very calm, very cool. And by the time I calmed down, he was walking down the stairs at my apartment about to get ready to leave. He was fed up, with my mouth. And so his partner's still talking to me. And by the time I calmed down, I told his partner, I said, "Hey, can you stop him real quick? I need to apologize to him for the way I was acting, because I'm not upset with you guys, but you can imagine it's 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm frustrated." And so I had to come back up there, apologize to him. And every time I call the police for a situation, it's usually that same guy that I see. So you got to be respectful, because these guys are, they're up all hours of the night. They come with speed, and they come with such professionalism, and you have to treat them with the respect that they're due, especially when they treat you so kindly, because I've never been mistreated by a police officer. I've been pulled over several times for not having a tag on my car when I had just bought my car a few years ago when I had one. And every time they pulled me over, I got a ticket once on the first time, but all the other times the officer never even tried to give me a ticket. He was just like, "Hey, what's going on? You don't have a tag?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know, I can't afford it right now." It's like, "Okay, well, just keep on going down. Just try to be good, try to stay out of trouble." I'm like, "Okay, thank you." And they let me go about my business. You treat them with respect. People are always like, "Oh, you got to do this, got to do that." I've never been asked to get out my car for a police officer. They've never once asked me to get out my car on the side of the road. Yeah, I got stopped by the state trooper in Texas on my way to go see my sister for her baby shower. I was going to Killeen, Texas, and I was on the freeway. Got pulled over by the police because I didn't have a tag on my car. My sister wanted to go see my other sister's baby shower, so I was like, "Okay, let's go on over there," And he stopped me. He's like, "You don't have a tag." Didn't even have to get out of the car. Very professional. He even gave me instructions on how to bypass all of the traffic to get over to Killeen in 3 hours instead of having to drive 6 hours to get there.
Well, I think it works both ways. We, like I said, on a traffic stop or any call that we get, we don't know if it's going to be our last. So we're very appreciative when we talk to somebody and they're very cordial with us. That goes a long way, believe it or not. And we do understand that, most of the situations, most of the calls that we get called out to is because somebody is upset about something, and we try our best to mediate that and get to some type of resolution. But we have to get everybody on the same page where you're able to have that conversation and get rid of that anger, even if it's just for a few minutes, to see if we can come to a resolution of what got you angry to begin with. So, like I said, it works both ways. We're appreciative, of that too.
And so here's another question on the school shooting, not particularly the Uvalde school shooting, but school shootings in general. In your professional opinion, we've heard a lot of people talking about arming the teachers and things like that. What is the best way to harden our schools as targets for these cowards that like to come and kill people? What do you think are the best routes that our schools should be taking that won't hurt the budget? Because a lot of the schools, they have the budget to get better police, get better security, but they misuse the funds.
Right.
So not concerning the budget, what methods do you think that schools can take right now without having to spend any extra money that would harden their schools as soft targets for these cowards?
Well, there's a ton, and there's a ton of money that gets poured into our school districts. A lot of the schools don't, I'm not going to say the schools, but being in this profession and working in the schools as a school resource officer for many years, we get asked that a lot. What can we do? What can we do to prevent the violence, or what can we do to help these children or to protect these children? And a lot of it comes down to, who's in charge of the money that goes into that school, because you can harden these schools. You can absolutely harden them in a way that would make it very difficult for that particular incident like that, or any of the others where a shooter was able to have access to the school, that you can either mitigate that down to a minimum, or you can prevent it altogether from happening. And they decide to go somewhere else and commit whatever acts. But the simplest, I think, is working directly with your police departments, your local police departments, and either having school resource officers, school safety officers, or something of that nature, where you have somebody who's willing to stop that threat at the door or at the borders of that property. As far as teachers being armed, I think it's up to them. If they want to be armed, that's totally up to them. But I understand the other side of it too, because people, the average person is just not responsible enough. And here's why I say that. Many calls that we get just in our city, where cars are getting broken into, purses are getting stolen, or boats, or whatever the property is. You wouldn't believe how many of those have a gun that was just sitting there for somebody to take. That's why these people are targeting cars, pulling on door handles and checking to see, because they know you keep all your stuff in there, and to keep an unsecured weapon in there, it makes no sense to me. I would never do that, but apparently people think that that's something that you do, and they don't think twice about it. That's where I think that people have an issue with teachers, because not only are you in a school with a bunch of juveniles who don't know any better, but what are your safety precautions that you're taking to make sure that that thing is secured, and then it's not going to be, mistakenly or even on purposely taken by a student. There has to be safeguards, to have something like that. Your easiest safeguards to have an armed officer there. You have the budget, put one in every school. Why not? Put two in some of the schools if you have to. That's a simple solution. You work directly with your police departments, make that happen, because it's not a hard ask, and it's not outside of your budget. When you look at the budget that these schools get and these districts get,
Oh, I
and
have.
what they
I went
spend
to
their
the
money
library
on,
and seen it. It's
yeah.
ridiculous.
When you see what they're spending their money on, it's like that doesn't make sense to me, But you're out of that loop. I've had administration, superintendents tell me that the perception of the police car or the police officer there makes it look like we have a dangerous school. I bet those people aren't thinking that now.
That's ridiculous.
This was years ago.
I've never thought that. You know what I thought when in Harrison Central, when Dr. Holloway was our principal. When Dr. Holloway became the principal, I was thinking Joe Clark from that movie. I was thinking, he transformed the school. I like Dr. Holloway. I liked him a lot more than Principal Bush. But
yeah, me too.
I remember watching Dr. Holloway when bullies and people would try to start fighting people. I remember watching Dr. Holloway tackle kids down the dang steps trying to break up those fights. And there were always officers on campus, and I spoke to the officers every day, knew them on a first name basis. Built up thing. I never once felt that the school was not safe when Dr. Holloway was the principal there, and we had that police presence that we did. As a matter of fact, I felt a bit safer, because at one point, I don't know if Rhett remembers this, but in ninth grade year, there was at one point in building, I think it was building 7, or building 7 or building 5, the one that was right next to the field house.
That's 5.
5, yeah, there was a report that there was some guy that was driving around in a gray vehicle that was roaming around, running through the building naked.
I wasn't there then.
And I felt much safer knowing that the police there were able to handle that type of situation.
Find him and give him some clothes. I didn't come in until 10th grade, so I wasn't there that year. I heard about that though.
I can agree
because it
with
was
you.
seventh. It was seventh period because we didn't have 7th period in 10th grade. They switched it to 4 periods 10th grade year.
Yeah, it's like you were saying. I think there's a large percentage of the people felt that seeing officers or police cars at their school was a sign of security for those
supposed to be, right?
That staff. And so you can understand how disheartening it was for us to hear that, hey, they want you to move your car to the back lot where it's out of sight, and we don't want you hanging around out here in the front of the school.
I think that's the dumbest decision that they could make. Right. Because when we were in high school, at the time that we were coming into school on the bus, the police officer would be at the light that the bus turned on to make sure that the buses were getting in there. They would stop traffic so that the buses could come in and turn around. There would be one right there where the buses pulled up to drop us off. And then there would be some in the parking lot area where there's kids would be able to park their cars. And I was in a debate group 2 weeks ago. We were talking about the school shootings and stuff like that. And I was telling them, having the police on campus, sure, they talk about, well, have private security. Well, private security can't do what police officers can do. They don't have the same legal authority to do what police officers can do. But at the same time, just by having police not even be on the campus, I think they should be on the campus, but just having them have a perimeter outside the campus where the cars are visible, that level of authority shows these people, because these people who are coming in to kill kids, they're cowards. They wouldn't try that someplace else. And when they see that type of authority, they say, "Oh, okay, I'm going to go try someplace else. This is not the right. This is not the right place. These guys, they're packing."
Police presence has a big impact on a large group of people.
And they tried to convince me. They tried to convince me that having police on campus make it more dangerous for Black people.
Yeah, I think there's a certain political party that wants you to believe that, and it's a shame. It's a crying shame that they want you to believe that for political reasons, not because it has to do with reality or anything like that, but strictly political. It's make you feel like you're a victim in some kind of way. And the only way that you're going to get protection, and the only way you're going to fix it, is to put your support in this party or in this person. It should never be like
absolutely. It's a shame. And then the politicians, they use these tragedies to promote political agendas, because before you're pretty sure you saw it. I was pissed off because before the shooting, victims' names had even been mentioned. Here's Beto O'Rourke jumping up in there trying to make a case out of it, and then Biden comes out and says he wants to ban handguns because a 9mm can blow your lungs out of the body. I never heard of a 9mm being able to do that, but
yeah, I'm not sure where he's getting his information from. We do ballistics, and that's something that we have to be familiar with on the sniper team. That's. I'm not sure. Maybe he got his numbers mixed up or something, but I'm not seeing it.
Another thing you keep saying is, are those deers out there running around with Kevlar on? Meanwhile, a rifle will go through Kevlar.
Well, the thing about it, he plays that card every single time, and that only tells me that he doesn't understand the Constitution, because will not be infringed has nothing to do with a hunting trip. Those guys that formed that document just got done liberating a nation. They were at war. And that was the premise of those words in that document, to stop a tyrannical government from taking your God-given freedoms away from you. So, and I think either he doesn't understand the Constitution or he does understand it and he's wanting to take those rights away. So this is the only way to do it.
I think it's the second one, because they just dug up some of his own words from back in 2000 and in the 80s and the 90s, but when he wrote the crime bill, that shows that he absolutely understands what the Second Amendment's all about. But they're so about pushing this agenda, get rid of the guns, because they've already managed to silence the majority of the country. They promote everybody except for the majority. I mean, you got Pride Month going on right now. I was looking at Candace Owens, and I never did think about it that way, but Pride Month is almost a spit in the face to Black History Month, even though I don't think we need a hit Black History Month, but it's not even the same. It started off as a day, then it came to a week. Now it's an entire month of just gyrating around sexually in public. And it makes very little sense.
That's what they've turned LGBTQ, whatever, plus they've turned it into something that's originally it was about love. Now it's just about sex. It's like our culture is slowly becoming obsessed with like the most base desires.
Yes,
and it's destroying everyone.
I seen the drag queens dancing in front of children, and it's not the drag queen's fault. In this particular case, sure, they were dancing in front of the kids, but they're at the club doing that. The parents brought the kids to this event to have their kids be exposed to drag queens dancing and stuff like that. These kids are probably no more than 10 years old, maybe less than that. And we have completely perversed our society. And,
those kids' parents are millennials. That's our generation, the older people in our generation. And
I hate to see where our country's going.
The writing was on the wall, because they, systematically they took God out of schools. They took the Bible out of schools, and then they replaced it with this. And
it is a religion. It is.
Yeah, you should absolutely pay attention to it, because if they're going to say that it's okay to teach that, then we should be able to teach what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah to those same students. Because I see the nation going in that direction. I see a lot of evil things happening in this nation, and I see a lot of people in those representative positions that are flying that same flag and promoting those same ideals. And I'm like, how do you call yourself a Christian? How do you reconcile that? You call yourself a Christian, but yet you believe in murdering babies in the womb. You believe in any type of sexual immorality is okay with you, but yet you call yourself a Christian and a believer in God. I don't understand how they reconcile that, whether it's in their mind or in their heart. It just doesn't make sense.
I see the rainbow cult, this new woke. It's like a new paganism in some sort of strange way. And abortion is another thing that kind of ties
abortion
into
it. That's the version of sacrifice.
That's what it's the fires of Moloch. That's exactly what it is. It's the reemergence. I've said this before, and people don't want to see it as that, but at least symbolically it's child sacrifice. But even more than that, it's actual child sacrifice. Right. And I've never been somebody who was super passionate about the abortion issue, but it's gotten so crazy that I've had to start talking about it.
Yeah, if you paid attention to it even a little bit, where these people are killing the babies, even up to and after they're actually born, and they're saying, well, I decided I didn't want it, and they will kill the baby right there. You have people that are saying it's okay at any time from conception, even up until and after the baby is born, that it is okay in their mind, because in their mind they say that's not a baby, it's not a life, it's a massive, a clump of cells. Or
it's infanticide. Straight up. A
sitting U.S. governor, Governor Ralph Northam of Virginia.
Oh, that dude.
You'll deliver the baby, make it comfortable, and then you'll have a discussion with the mother of whether or not to kill it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that is sick. It's
you almost can't believe that's actually taking place in this country. Like, that's real. Like, you heard him say it.
It's horrible. it's sickening. Um, you know, I could talk to you for hours, Mr. Brooks, but I understand that you got to get out of here soon. And so I want to give you the last word. Um, Oh, I mean, given that all of the tough times that we have here, and I try to end our shows on positive notes, but it's so hard nowadays. You look at the price of gasoline, just hit
Yeah.
a record high today of $5 for the first time, $5 across the nation, average. I look at the gas today, Mississippi, $4.49 for regular unleaded, $5.39 for diesel. And Americans are really hurting. So I want to give you the last word, and if you can, end us on a nice positive note.
Well, I do appreciate you guys having me on. I could stay here and talk to you because you guys have really, really great content. You have great questions, and I absolutely appreciate having this kind of conversation. I do hope that your show grows, and I hope that more people start tagging on and paying attention to it. As it goes, that you continue asking those tough questions the way that you have with me. This nation, it has its ups and downs, and I really had a negative outlook prior to coming into this race. I was really, really angry at the way that this nation was going. But I'll have to say, that going around and actually speaking to people, speaking to them face to face and talking to these groups and seeing that they agree with a lot of the same things I do, is reassuring that there is hope. I always want to feel that there's hope in this nation, that we can correct this course and fix some of these things. It's not just happening here in this state. I see it happening across the nation. People are stepping up and people are starting to pay more attention. But we can't stop at that, and we can't get frustrated because an election didn't go our way or the person that we wanted to be in there is not there. We have to stay in the fight. And I think that's our duty as American citizens. Freedom for us wasn't passed down in the bloodline. And we have to understand that. It's something that we have to fight for every single generation. And if we get to the point where we become complacent enough that we just say we're not willing to fight for it anymore, then that's when freedom goes away. And I think we are that last light. It's reassuring to see that there are so many people who still believe in the Constitution, who still believe in God the way that I believe in God, and that we have a chance to make things right here. So I think it's just up to us to stand up, take that stand, and make sure that we make our voices heard at every single election, and do our part to make sure that we're a part of that political process, to make sure that this nation stays in the way that our founders intended it to be.
Oh, that's well said, and I absolutely agree with you on that. One of the things that Rhett and I noticed when we went to those events were the lack of media, and so we're happy that we were able to give you that outreach, and we're happy that people have been able to see you through us. And that it's sparked another part of our plan, is to try to make this into a show that reports media, so that we can have alternatives to the mainstream media that refuses to air things that would change the outcomes of these local elections, which are so important. They don't, because they're not federal, they don't get the attention that they're needed, and then we wonder why nothing ever changes. But I want to thank you for coming on to the show. It's always a blast talking to you. Like I said, I could talk to you for hours, and I'm happy that you're able to give us some professional insight as to the mindset of an officer going through some of these turbulent times, as to what you guys have to deal with when it comes to these active shooting situations, when it comes to protecting us. And I want to thank you for your service to our community, to our district, and to our country.
Thank you very
Raymond Brooks,
much. I
everybody.
appreciate it.
Thank you for joining, Mr. Brooks. You're free to go.
Thank you.
All right, Rhett. So, you know, I want to continue going on for a little moment here, because this is our Saturday night stream. So, like I was saying at the end there, $5, the average of gasoline just reached. $5. You know, I was out with my mother, and she was telling me that in order to fill up the truck, it cost her $120 to fill up the truck. And when she had to go fill up the diesel, it was even more than that, you know. And you have to think, my mother lives in the country. So when she has to come down to work down here in the coast every day, man, that's a lot of gas. That's a lot of diesel. And it's not done. The prices are probably this time tomorrow, gasoline prices are probably going to be $5.05 because it looks like we're rising on an average of about three to 5 cents every single day, almost. Because just a few days ago we were at 5.96. I know 4.96 on national average, and now here we are at $5. So I'm thinking by Monday it'll probably be at 5.05. So, you know, we were talking about in the last weekly news bulletin, we were talking about gas prices probably reaching. I said that they were going to reach 735. I think that's what my number was, or was it 635?
See, you said six. Well, you said six and between 6 and 7. I think. I thought that was generous, though.
But now I'm a bit more pessimistic on it because gas price is $5 at half of the year. We still got another half of the year to go by, and gasoline prices since the start of this year have risen by more than $2.
Yeah, banks are saying now it's more than one bank now. I don't think it's just the banks, but it's primarily the financial institutions that are predicting this recession. I think it's going to be a depression. I know you do as well. We'll start.
I've been predicting it.
First of the year, beginning of. If I think it's, I mean, we have seen nothing yet as far as things are right now, but if they're right, starting the first of the year, things are going to get pretty bad.
You know, I seen a post on Facebook at Walmart in Mississippi for vitamin D whole milk, which is the milk that I purchase, that I drink, for a gallon, $7.25, $7.35, and
I don't even know what's normal
$7.44
for milk because I don't drink milk.
It's more expensive to purchase milk than it is minimum wage in Mississippi. Now that's not to say that I want minimum wage to be increased, because I don't want minimum wage at all. But you have to think 1 hour of work is not even the equivalent of purchasing a single gallon of milk in some areas in Mississippi now.
It's ridiculous. It's a good thing I don't drink milk, but that's still, it's absurd because 1 hour of work should be worth a lot more than a gallon of milk. That's also not an argument for the raising the minimum wage. It's just the point that I'm trying to make. If you work for an hour,
you don't have to drink an entire gallon every day. I mean, if you had to drink a gallon every day, oh man, we'd be hurting bad. I mean, technically, you do have to drink a gallon every day because of gas prices. You know, milk is higher than gas, Mississippi, but you know,
gas is so much more essential. Eventually, I mean, the gas prices probably will be an hour of minimum wage job. $7.25. It's
going to be more. It's going to be more. Man. I'm predicting now on a national average that gasoline prices are probably going to be about $9.30. Because
where are you getting that number from? Are you just guessing?
It's mostly a guess. It's mostly a guess, which is an educated guess, because I'm going by following the trending data. When Biden got in office, it was rising at a rate of 62% year over year. Well, since last year, gasoline prices have risen more than 150%. And if they continue to rise at the rate that they're going, by the end of the year, if we don't see it start to slow down, I think in December, national average is going to be between $9 and $10. And in some areas of the country, that's going to be between $15 and $17 a gallon.
Well, they don't want people driving, so this is basically, it seems, it's the result of their policies, even if it's not orchestrated, but it certainly seems like they planned it this way.
I don't see any other way that it could have been that it wasn't planned, because
They knew this was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen.
Well, think of it this way. They have methods right now that they could put in place that will squash it, that will stop gasoline prices from rising anymore and actually start to move towards lowering it. But what did they decide to do? Solar panels. Invest billions of dollars into making charging stations. How many people in this? How many charging stations are in the state of Mississippi?
They don't see the problem with the charging stations is Elon Musk even said personally, don't give us any money. We don't need it. Tesla already has a nationwide network that they built themselves. So he's just wasting the money.
But it goes to say, how many charging stations do we have here in the state of Mississippi?
I don't know how many we haven't. There's some in Biloxi.
Let me find out. I want to find out, because I want to see how feasible it is, even though it's not really feasible for somebody that's in the
Not
middle
feasible
of inflation
because we don't have enough
to go buy a
natural
new
resources
electrical
to
vehicle.
build the batteries. Everybody can't drive an electric car. That we don't have the material to build enough for everybody. And the charging the power grid couldn't handle it either.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. Not with our outdated power grids in the United States, particularly
It's not sustainable at all.
Particularly in some other regions. So Mississippi has a total of what looks to be a total of 433 registered EVs, as 780 charging stations per 100 EV.
That's more than I thought.
So I'm looking
You're starting to see a lot of Teslas in Gulfport, actually, Model 3s at least, the cheaper ones. I've seen.
So I'm looking at 433 charging stations in Mississippi, which is more than what I expected. But when you compare that to gasoline, how often it is that you're going to drive and see a gas station versus a charging station. I mean, to go charge your vehicle, you have to go out of your way to go find a charging station.
But you can do it at your house.
Yeah, you could do that at your house.
That's probably what most people are doing. They charge it every night. Like
if you don't want to pay an exorbitant amount in your electric bill, which is about to go up as well.
The point is not, electric cars are fine. It's just not a sustainable solution at all. Like when I have the money, I'm going to buy a Tesla. I like Teslas, but it's not something that everybody.
I like the Tesla Roadster Sport. It's very quiet.
But the point is, it's not a sustainable long-term solution at all.
Exactly, and the point that I was getting across is that this is Biden's solution, is to have people who don't have any money, who don't have any savings because they blew all of their savings during the lockdowns because they weren't able to go to work. Biden's solution is go shell out $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on a new vehicle that you can't afford.
But if everyone did it, the power grid would collapse. And it's like he can't think about things that far ahead. Or if the power grid collapsed and they couldn't get it back up, millions of people would be dead within the first 24 hours. First, it would be the diabetics who require insulin because insulin has to be refrigerated. That's like 80 million people worldwide.
But then who is he actually helping? Because the average American can't afford that. Even the middle class American can't afford to just go buy a new car right now. But the people who are most affected by the raising gas prices are the working class. Who is he going to help when the people who he's supposed to care the most about, because they're always talking about, or in his words, by the way, in his words, poor people are just as bright and just as talented as white people. So obviously he's saying that black people are poor. Yeah, so if black people are right there, if black people are poor, how is he helping us by telling us to go get an electric vehicle that we can't afford, and then allowing gas prices to continue to rise through the roof?
He fundamentally believes that people are divided more by race than they are by class, and that's completely wrong.
Yeah, he's wrong in a whole bunch of stuff too. A whole bunch more than what you will you already know. I don't have to tell you what he's wrong at. I don't have to tell these viewers what he's wrong at because we've been saying it. Like this bald spot is getting on my nerves. I gotta fix that.
Just shave your head, dude.
I can't do that. I'm going to do
Why?
keeps. I'm going to start
You
keeps.
don't have any other. I don't know what that is.
You don't know what keeps. This is all on. It's on all the commercials.
No, I don't watch TV,
It's
and I
on
don't have
Facebook.
ads on
All over.
YouTube. I've
It's all
never.
over Facebook.
It's for you, not for me.
Well, it's
They
because you
have
have a full head of
algorithms.
because you have a full head of hair. You know, you got
Yeah,
that Native American blood in you. Your hair's never going to go away. I got Native blood in me too, but not as much as you do.
I don't think that's why I have a full head. I have a full head of hair because both my grandfathers did.
But yeah, but
And
my
I don't have any.
grandfathers have
There's nobody in my family, in my immediate family, or even slightly extended family that's bald.
Native American blood. How many Native Americans you know are bald?
I don't think I've ever seen one. And
Exactly.
I've lived on the Navajo reservation. I don't think I ever
my
seen it.
my point exactly. Look, you even have the guy right behind you in
Oh yeah,
full head of hair.
Chief Joseph.
It's a full head of hair.
Hear me, my chiefs. I am tired. My heart is sick and sad. Oh, I forgot the quote. Anyway, the memorable quote by him is, "I will fight no more forever."
I I like that quote, but that means I'll be dead when I have to stop fighting.
Yeah, he was just tired of it.
Hell, I'm tired of it. I
Yeah,
think
but
we
we
all
can't
are
stop.
tired
Yeah,
of it
we're not
at
old
this
Indian
point.
chiefs. Not
But
yet.
you know, uh, I feel like it every day. But that put a smile on my face when Mr. Brooks let us know that a lot of people were watching. It was
Yeah,
good.
dude.
A lot of people in
That's actually kind
Mississippi
of
are
that
watching.
surprised me. Like, did we have that much of a reach? Like, how do we get to them? Maybe they were just looking for him. I don't know. But if
You
they
know,
know, they couldn't have been, because if they heard of him from us, maybe people are talking about
yeah.
it.
So that we got some reach in Mississippi, which is good. I like that, and it's encouraging.
You wouldn't know it
It,
from the analytics.
yeah, Anchor's analytics seem a little bit wonky,
Well,
to
see,
say the
the
least.
the analytics are different when you log into it on a computer. They don't look the same.
When I log into it on my computer, what I see, as a matter of fact, I'll look at it right now. The analytics that I see, it shows that our highest watched episode right now, peak watching. Let me see, podcast performance. Let's do of all time, and so let's do it. So of all time, our best day was in the middle of January of this year. But when you take a look at the amount of plays that we have, as far as our analytics go on that, we've got 395 plays altogether, an average of 4 plays per episode with an average audience side of 10.
Yeah, the app says 4. So I don't know why it's different on the app on your phone, but
So it's a lot of inconsistencies and strangeness there. But when you take a look at our best episode, our weekly news bulletins are doing good. We got 10 plays on the week of May 30th. We got
it
10
would be
plays on
great
that.
if everybody who likes our Facebook page listened to every episode, dude. That would be.
Well, that's why I wish that they would do that. But let's see, our bet, we had a good episode. Raymond Brooks, we got 10 views on that interview that we did with him. We got 10 for Alden Returns. We got 15 for Carl Boynton. We got 9 for David Sellers. We got 23 for Alden. first
Yeah.
interview with us.
I talked
11
to him.
for
We're supposed to be getting him back on here soon. It won't be next weekend. It'll probably be at the weekend after that. I sent
11
out
for
I sent out a
Aaron
whole
Lee.
bunch of emails today
That's
to
good.
different people, different parties, different third parties, and several media people also. I've
And
also
I just put us in a Spotify list thing. As a matter of fact, let me tell you exactly what it was, because I can't remember what it was. I did it yesterday. Um, I went to my page here, and it was right here. It's called a recording room. With ink. Where was it? Which one was it? They all look the fucking same, which is which is why it's always so hard to figure out which one it was that I clicked on, because all the emails have the same god dang. Here it is. Is this it? No, no, that wasn't it. That wasn't it either. What was it that I clicked in? Because it was an email from this year, or maybe it was from last year, because some of these were from last year. I don't know. Anyways, here it is. Get featured on Spotify, which we're on Spotify, but I submitted our show. Um, they emailed me this in May, so I don't check my emails all the time, but I looked at the email and I just submitted us to be featured on Spotify. And so what it does is it goes into their editorial submission team, and it's going to put us into their big feature. So I'm trying to get us a creator spotlight is what it's going to be doing. And so it's going to push us out there with a lot more people, and it's free advertising. So I just did that yesterday. So we should be seeing some results and some upticks, which is good. You know, I want to see those upticks and things like that. But yeah, Alden's episode was by far our most watched episode. Second to that is our season 3 pilot. And then it's the very first episode. It's so very first episode is 21 views. That's the birth of a nation. That's when I first started the podcast. Then it's so Alden was 23, birth of a nation's 21, season 3 pilot was 18, and then the pre-pilot episode to season 1 was 16 views. So you know, we're getting a lot of views, so we got a good uptick. So I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying all of it. And like I said, it really did put a smile on my face to know that we have been able to help inform, because that's really the whole point of our show is you know, we give commentary here and there, but we're here to inform people to make their own decisions, to try to help them think on their own 2 feet, help them influence their own thoughts. And the fact that people learned about Mr. Brooks through us is exciting. It makes the idea of being able to turn this into a media site that we can use to try to replace the local media, or at the very least compete with them. It makes that idea a lot more feasible, a lot more possible, because we're able to reach people like that. And who knows what the algorithm is for the amount of votes that went to the primary because they heard us interview these people, you know, and they were able to share that information with their particular demographics and constituencies, and just been able to hear those long form interviews that we give our guests and allow them the time to be able to speak that these forums don't. You know, who knows how many people we were able to influence in the election.
Yeah,
And
stuff like that gives me the, a confidence boost to keep going because
hopefully this episode does the same thing. Um, we can maybe having this conversation with Mr. Brooks. If we can get Mr. Boynton or any of the other Republican candidates on, rally some support behind Ezel and the runoff. Get Palazzo out of office. Ezel scares the hell out of me because of his warish tendencies, but Palazzo's got to go. He's got to
yeah, I
go.
think that's what it comes down to. He's been there too long. It's somebody else's turn. Even if Ezel is not everything we hope, it's still time for Palazzo to be gone, regardless of
He's
anything else.
he's not everything that we hoped for, but from the answers that he gave, other than some of the ones on war, on America's policing issues, well, not policing locally, but policing the world. Uh, he's a pretty okay guy, pretty okay answers on a lot of them. I wrote down all of the memorable ones that I could think of. I got it written down there in my binder. But yeah, that's what it comes down to. Palazzo has just got to go. He has been there for 14 years and has produced nothing. At the very least, Benny Thompson is chairing a committee. He's a horrible candidate too. He's
Most useless committee that we. The problem is that January 6th is the one example they can point to of some sort of right-wing extremism when the examples on the left are so plentiful that the problem is the Republicans won't focus on any of it. They won't have their own hearings about these riots. And so they hold on to that January. They hold on to the January 6th because that's all they have.
Yeah, and Benny Thompson, the way he opened, I didn't really watch it because I think it was a load of crap.
No, I didn't either. My grandma was watching it.
I kept some tabs on it, because we have to cover it. It's our job. I mean, we don't have to cover it if we don't want to. I mean, it's our show. We can do what the fuck we want. But he opens up the committee. I was born a black man in South Mississippi and lived here. Like, what the fuck does your race have to do with anything?
First of all, we can see that you were born a black man. You don't have to tell us that. That's ridiculous. Yeah. Okay. What if he said, I was born an Asian man and now I'm black?
What if he said, I was born a white man and I have become black with revitiligo?
Transition. Like transition to a black man.
Do you remember when that was a thing? Black trans, where people were transitioning from white to black. Yeah.
Rachel Dolezal, the NAACP press, she tanned herself or like she sprayed it. What? But the thing is, it's like that should be just as valid as transgender, but it's not. These aren't even real mental disorders because they're not this. It's not racial dysphoria. Yeah, I think people they're just trying to push. They're trying to see how crazy they can get it.
I don't even think it's that. I think they want to do something to make themselves famous.
Yeah, or special. Something that makes them different.
Speaking of, this is the most vomit-inducing story about transsexuals that I've ever encountered. That this family has decided to have their, I think it's 3-year-old transition because he just knew when he was born that he was a woman and not a little boy. He's 3 years old.
Where's Child Protective Services when you need them?
They're championing it. Child Protective Services championing it.
I know. You can get them called on you for not transitioning your kid. That's just they're promoting child abuse. That's what they're doing. That's what this is. They're pedophiles. They're pedophiles or they're just insane. The people who take their kids to a child drag show, those people are pedophiles.
This is craziness. He's 3. When I was 3 years old, I was playing with Barbie dolls because for number one, we didn't have enough money to afford action figures. So we had hand-me-down Barbie dolls and stuffed animals.
Might be trans. Who knows?
My mother should have transitioned me. I should call Child Protective Services and sue my mother for not transitioning me when I was a child. I mean, this stuff is
Stuff's
sick.
gotten too crazy, man.
I mean, how did they know that the child knew? Because this is their excuse. They said that they knew that the child was trans before he got out of the womb. And then they used the excuse that a father who was a Christian didn't believe in transitioning, and his child resorted to self-harm when they were in high school or middle school or something like that, and he regretted not allowing his kid to transition because they started to inflict harm. They basically became emo, when that was a fad, and because of that, this guy has made in his mind, it's like, oh well, if that's the case, I'm happy that I'm transitioning my 3-year-old because I don't want them to harm themselves when they're in high school.
That's not a good rationale. There's always been people like that. Hell, I've cut myself before. That doesn't mean you're trans if you self-harm. They're taking anything that's like abnormal behavior and saying that that's what makes you trans. Anything
Hey,
that makes you alternative makes you trans.
I've done self-harm. I never cut myself or anything like that, but when I would go to the dojo or to the boxing gym, I'd sit there in the middle of the mat or in the middle of the ring, unguarded, and just let somebody deck me in the face just because I felt like it one day. Doesn't mean that I'm out to kill myself. Doesn't mean that I was bullied so badly that I decided that my life isn't worth anything. I'm gonna let this boxer beat the hell out of me. I mean, this is utter nonsense. It's craziness. I don't know where we go from here with all of this. You have kids, as you said, these parents, and there's one thing that I can say that I did not like about the drag queen incident with the kid, with that, is that
Only
after
one
the
thing.
event, well, I mean, there's a lot of it, but
Event.
this thing I really didn't like is after the event was over, uh, some guy with a cell phone was chasing down one of the performers and calling him a pedophile and all of that and hunting him down to his car when you know it was not that drag queen's fault that the parents brought their kids there. He was just doing his job and performing.
That's not. I mean, obviously the parents, but still, you're a pedophile too if you're performing for kids like that.
You just put it on the floor. But I get you. Come here. Get up here. Come here. But Rhett, I get you 100% that the fault it's the fault of the parents, and the drag performer does have some responsibility that they have to bear for continuing to perform when children are there, rather than standing up and saying, "Hey, this is not right."
The whole
Kids
point of it was
shouldn't.
to bring kids, though. That whole event.
Yeah, that's true that they did set the event up for it to happen. But I don't like the fact that the guy was chasing the guy to his car and harassing them at his vehicle, because at the end of the day, they knew what the event was. The parents knew what the event was. They were the ones that brought these kids there. So as much as we can be upset at the performer, a lot more of that needs to be targeted towards these parents for their sickening behavior and what they decided to do.
Yeah, indeed. So you about ready to wrap this up? It's 9 o'clock.
Is it? Oh, geez, it is. Oh, yeah. So let's end this on a positive note, on a nice positive note.
I thought we already did that.
Well, Mr. Brooks did give us a nice positive note. I really
Yeah,
did
I don't think
enjoy-
we can top that.
I really did enjoy that. Oh, yeah, right. You're right. I think he gave us the best closing that we can give. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for listening to our episode tonight. Join us on Facebook. Not join, follow us on Facebook. Yeah.
Follow, like our page.
Like our page, share our content. Listen to our content on
Please
Spotify.
share it with your friends. Spread the show as far as you can. If you enjoy it, then maybe other people will too.
If you enjoyed, if you think it's mind opening, do so. Leave us messages on the Facebook and our Discord. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. We'd love to hear what you guys want to be able to talk about. Do you like the content that we're doing? Do you like the fact that we're producing episodes 5 days out of the week, 6 days out of the week, technically, when we do our collaborations? And I produce videos 7 days out of the week, pretty much. But follow us on all of those things. Tell us what you think of our content, because the only way that we're going to get better with our content, get better with our model, is to have feedback to let us know, how are we doing? Are episodes too long? Do we ramble too much? Do I curse too much? Or some people say I do.
Every once in a while is fine, but try to keep it to maybe twice per episode or something like that.
I'm not going to sit here and be all Hodge twins and be, that was a damn good show. I love those guys. They got a new sweepstakes going out there for a new white Ram TRX. I gotta enter that sweepstakes. I'm gonna win that Ram TRX. But yeah, follow us everywhere. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Rumble, on YouTube, on Truth Social, Twitter, and all the other places. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, The Story of America, or The Story of America PW, wherever you find us. And I've always wanted to do this. Yeah. But we are out of here. Thank you all for joining us.